asked me what's with my hoodie. This is one of the ones I designed. Designed it, I think, like 2 years ago, and I kind of just sat. My designs kind of just sat doing nothing for a while, and I had an online apparel store, and then I stopped it, kind of put it on pause, and I realized, like, well, I've got a podcast now. So after like a year and a half of not doing anything, I opened it back up, and all the designs on there are all 100% my designs, and I can definitely say that these are like the highest fucking quality hoodies I've ever worn. They're so cozy. And as you can tell, some dope designs. And they're all weird, crazy shit. It's King Tut. Right, I think King Tut with God knows how many pharaohs on it. But it's an awesome hoodie. Fucking buy it. Support the podcast. Be an American. Give in to capitalism. And, but Roger Williams, author of my favorite book, Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect, which will be in the description, sticky in the top comment. And word on the street, Roger, is that it might be getting narrated soon. Or it's in talk.
I did have a talk with Noah about it. He's planning to do a test reading of a snippet to see how it sounds.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see. The financial situation with doing that isn't quite as bad as I thought, although it's still pretty out there. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, there is the whole thing that Audible is now a thing that it wasn't even 5 years ago. So I had to start paying attention
to that. It's a monster. You gotta have your work on Audible. It's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, I got like 5 coworkers who sit around all day talking about the podcast that they're listening to and shit like that, and I'm like, what sorcery is this? This is like,
what is this? What is this? What is this?
Yeah. Oh, and you might notice too, I repositioned the mic a little bit because last week whenever I noticed, when I rewatched my own cast, I noticed that you had to coax me a couple of times to get back to the mic because I lost it. And the reason was that the way that I had it positioned, then I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I couldn't see the mic at all. And, now on the Zoom thing, I can see it. Like I can say, okay, yeah, there I can see. But when I start reading, mm-hmm. I take the Zoom window and put it over here. Mm-hmm. So I'm not looking at it. So I can't see myself and I can't see you. I'm looking at the stuff that I'm reading. And so if I start to get a little drift back from the microphone, it's like I can't tell.
Go away and the voice gets quieter and the voice gets louder. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to learn as well. I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
It's I noticed because your mic has the drop boom, and I noticed what some of the broadcasters do is they have that like square broadcaster thing on the drop part, so it keeps it in their eyesight even if the mic is off to the side.
Yeah.
So and I think now that I've seen how that works, I think that may actually be deliberate so that they have like a reference point.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of the times it's like, of course you got that enormous Shure thing that's like about that big, and because we all know that you need a microphone the size of a hand grenade in order to encode audio in the 21st century.
It's the only way. If it doesn't look like a World War II Wehrmacht hand grenade, why not? If you don't look like you're getting ready to fight back the invading Soviet forces, then
if there isn't an actual vacuum tube in there, it's no good.
If you can't bludgeon someone to death with it, what are you even doing? Dude, I love this thing in the stand. I love that I can lean back and move it around and shit. It's awesome. Yeah.
It is an impressive prop. I mean, it's the sort of thing. It's like you got to kind of figure out how to use it best.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just screams, I am a serious broadcasting dude.
As I'm sitting here in my fucking...
I'm sitting here with my fucking desk lamps.
I was gonna say, well, I can't really be too serious when I'm sitting here with my fucking DMT trip hoodie, and I'm very serious. I'm very serial. I'm super serial, guys.
I don't know. Have you ever seen any of the rappers do their thing? It's like they they're serious and they got all this bling and shit. And
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. The next step after this is right now I've got the sort of semicircle around me of like moving blankets, but there's still the entire like top. It's still a big room and there's echoes. The next step is going to be whenever I move out this summer and get an apartment, I'm definitely going to get like a 2-room place, and one of the rooms is just going to be the podcast room, and I'm going to get
studio.
Going to have the blankets up, but I'm also going to get the panels for the places that I can't reach with blankets, and really just because I look at like an episode now versus an episode even 6 months ago, and like I want to make that same jump again. I don't know if it's entirely possible, but I think
it is.
I think there's still a lot I can do. Yeah, there's obviously diminishing returns, right? You get to a point where it's like, how good can it get? But yeah, I wanna keep moving it up.
Yeah, no, I think the where you have room for improvement now is like managing that microphone.
Yeah,
a little bit. You're still struggling with that a little
bit.
Yeah,
it's still
and you still have a few room reflections, but nothing super serious.
Yeah. I can pick it up. Listening to our early episodes, I can hear the echo. I'm like, I didn't even realize that. And the echo kind of changes if I get closer because the blankets, they're on like a TV, like a bureau. There's like some tripods. It's like 2 feet high around the table, which is good. But when I come back, it starts to. This is also like the biggest room in the house, so it's like there is still a lot of echo.
That doesn't help. It's actually better to have a smaller space to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the I had something else in mind. Whatever. But anyway, it's like no, it's coming along good.
Thank you.
I'm liking it.
Thank you.
I was just listening to you talk to Miji before we started up here. Lord knows who you were talking to 5 minutes ago.
I was talking to Aaron Shepard, the guy that builds the telekinetic robots.
Oh!
Yeah.
I know who that is.
Yeah. Yes. Aaron's a genius, yeah. We just talked, and the motherfucker runs circles around me. But, yeah. Oh. But, Roger, what's new and good with you? What are we doing? What are we doing today?
Actually, it is a sad day. We lost one of our pets. Sheldon, the beachfront conure, passed. He was 30 years old. Which for a beachfront conure, which is a bird about yay high, they're small parrots. We believe he was one of the 2 or 3 oldest members of his species whose age was documented alive.
I'm sorry.
We bred him, so we knew exactly how old he was. And he was the last beachfront conure that we had of our original flock. And he spent the last few years hanging out in my wife's office window, watching over her hummingbird garden, going, "Ooh, birds!" And he had a rich life.
Yeah.
So he was a good kid.
Yeah.
But for his species, living to 30 would be like us living to 130. It was unheard of.
I had a toy poodle whose back legs were paralyzed when he was 1, and he lived to 17 and a half. Like, very sad. I remember I put him down last May, and I remember putting him down, and I remember the vet. This is like, he was like a veterinarian, and he was like, for whatever it's worth, he's like, you got 2 lifetimes out of that dog. And I was like, that's true. So yeah, that shit sucks. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's it wasn't like a big surprise. We're pretty sure he had a stroke. I walked in just in time to see him stand up on his perch for the last time, and then he kind of climbed down and went to sleep and never woke up.
I'm sorry.
But hey, that's life with pets.
Yeah.
Now we also have an Amazon parrot. He'll probably have to do that for us. He'll outlive us.
Yeah.
They're
in Vince Houghton's book, Nuking the Moon, they talk about the constant attempts on Castro's life, and it became this like running joke in the CIA that no one could ever kill Castro. He would just live forever. And the joke was someone gifted Castro a tortoise that lit, like the longest living tortoise, And he said, thank you. And he said, but God, you know, the thing about tortoises is it's so hard outliving them. It's always so difficult to bury them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, anyway, so that happened. And of course, I saw Iron Sky. And my God, that was hilarious. Then I was talking to my dad about it, or emailing, because we live 80 miles apart. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I saw that 3 years ago, and I gave that a 2 because I didn't like it because everyone died in the end." And I'm like, "It's a comic movie about Nazis
from the moon."
From the moon, and it hit me. You know, I figure about 20 minutes in, they did the scene that was just the shot for shot echo of the downfall bunker scene that everyone parodies. And I was like, that was when I realized what I was dealing with here. And it's like, okay, I have to watch this movie looking for all of the visual quotes, because that's what it's like, one visual quote after the other. It's like, you know, toward the end, the Gotterdammerung machine pops up and it's like, okay, this is Death Star.
Yeah.
It's flat instead of round, but it's the Death Star.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the Dr. Strangelove is all over it. And I told my dad that, and he was like, well, I didn't like Dr. Strangelove either because everyone died in the end.
Well, literally everyone died.
Yeah, that was kind of the point.
Like the globe. It was about what is the point of the doomsday weapon if you don't tell anyone about it? Yeah.
Dad and I don't always quite get the same things, but yeah.
There's the awesome political where they find out the Nazis are invading, and she's like thrilled. And a wartime president always gets reelected.
Oh, and the president is like the spitting image of Sarah Palin.
Yeah, yeah. Wartime president always gets reelected. At the very end, when they have the weapons in space, and they're like, everyone just take them out. We know everyone's violating the treaty.
Yeah. Oh, and it's like the thing where all the countries are admitting, oh yeah, we broke the outer space treaty. Yeah, we did too. Yeah, well, and Finland is there like going, well, we didn't. Of course, it was a Finnish company that made the movie.
Yeah. I didn't know that. But
yeah. Oh well, I saw the DVD, so they also had the making of special and all, which is like one thing about like everyone's like streaming and all that. So, hey, let me tell you something about DVDs. A lot of them have specials on them, and you don't get that shit with the streaming shit. So sometimes that stuff is really fantastic. And in this case, because they were saying when they started to think of making the movie, they knew that, well, it's like to do this right is going to cost $100 million, and no one had $100 million. So there was a lot about how they used the CGI and how they used it as effectively as possible. And, you know, it was very state of the art to not misuse the CGI, but to get as much out of it as possible. I mean, there was some really talented people who worked on that movie. It was very impressive. But it's like, you know, it's like the American woman who had like the Hunger Games thing with the flames coming out of her back of her costume and all. It's like they didn't miss anything.
Have you need to watch the trailer for part 2, which they never made. But the trailer is the trailer. It's disappointing because I remember watching the trailer in like 2014, I think.
It's like, where is this movie?
They never made it.
Yeah.
The trailer was awesome.
Well, yeah, like the teaser scenes for the second season of Caprica that never happened.
Yeah, it's the trailer in itself is like worth watching. It's like 3 minutes, but it's like worth watching. It's like a mini film. It's just every conspiracy tied into one. It's Hollow Earth, dinosaurs, Hitler's still alive, reptilians, Antarctica. They got everything, and it's beautiful, but they didn't make it. And it's. I hope they do. I fucking hope they do. I mean, it's legitimately like the trailer for the second movie looks like an Alex Jones fever dream.
Yeah.
Looks amazing.
Oh, did you see Alex Jones is about to get his ass sued off the face of the earth?
What happened? No.
No,
what happened more than usual? What happened?
No, he was trying to get a suit dismissed, and the judge basically told him to pound sand. He's being sued for defamation by the Sandy Hook parents and a couple of other actors from that whole episode, and they're like, there's an absence of a sense of humor.
I don't disagree with them. I tend to be a black sheep in that I like Alex Jones. I think he's funny, but that's definitely I don't know. I think that's free speech, but it's also if there was actual like harassment, which I think there was, where people like went to their houses. You can't do that.
Yeah, well, you have a large platform like that, and you encourage people to do something illegal, and they do the illegal thing. I mean, a lot of that is going to come out with regard to the 6th.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just. Well, I was going to say it's. Yeah, you can't encourage people to do that. I do think it's free speech to say it, no matter how large a platform is. I think free speech is for that which we don't like. It's not for that which we like. So if someone comes out and says that was a false flag shooting by the CIA, your kids didn't really die, I do think that's your freedom to say it. I don't think, and I think legally, I don't think you actually can like incite people to go to their house.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very, very hard in the United States, and for very good reasons, which I agree with.
So do I. It's gotta be. It's sorry, I know I'm interrupted, but right now I'm listening to Original Gangsters by Ben Westhoff, and he's the guy that wrote Fentanyl Inc., and he's coming back on the podcast.
Right, I remember him.
Yeah, he's coming back on the podcast on Wednesday to talk about his book Original Gangsters, and it's like, dude, early on they were trying to ban like they're trying to ban like NWA's albums and stuff, like Fuck the Police, like
I remember that.
Yeah, in the United States they were trying to like fraternal like cop unions were trying to like get the SWAT teams to go like raid these things, and like some judges actually banned them in their towns, but eventually it was like, dude, you can't that's you have to have it all. You have to have all speech, because if you don't, it starts as like you wrap yourself in a, well, we're protecting the families of Sandy Hook, but it always ends the same way. You've been arrested for wrongthink. Yeah. Right? It's, unfortunately, it comes with...
on the other hand, there's the other, there's you walk up to that line, and on the other side of that line, there's a mob that forms with actual pitchforks and torches. Yes. And at that point, you're on the wrong side of the line.
You're very right. Very right. You're inciting violence in the real world. And that's, I'm not for that. But
that's not entertainment anymore. No. Actually, some people find it entertaining, but not in a good way.
Not in a good way. Yeah, no. It's free speech is for that stuff which boils your blood. It's. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Once there's, anyone could come out and say that, that podcaster Tommy, he didn't actually lose a brother to suicide. This is all an attention grab, and his family are grifters. That would make me blind with rage. But you're allowed to say that. Now, if a mob came
let's go to Tommy's house, though, and take care of the situation.
And now it's very quickly like, okay, now I'm going to sue the fuck out of you.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, and they cross that line in a major way. Yeah. The people who incited the rioters on the 6th, Alex with the Sandy Hook people. I mean, there's been quite a bit of that going on for the last. Not really before, but for the last year or so, particularly. I think that these people have just like lost all sense of reality, and they're it's like I've been listening to Rush Limbaugh since I was 20. It seems like, and he always walked right up to that line, and then never crossed it.
Yes,
kicked some sand across it, but
sure, and you're allowed to. Yeah, it's. It's the same thing on the other side.
And he built an empire off of that.
Yeah, and same to everyone that thinks, Tommy, you're being a turncoat. Well, no, the same thing with Maxine Waters, like last summer, saying, if you see Trump supporters in public, go get in their faces. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot do that. But because I'm because I'm a First Amendment scholar, let me don't forget.
Well, actually, as a country, we're getting a first-hand lesson in that right now, because in some ways, this is stuff we haven't even really tested since the Civil War. Just where is that line between free speech and sedition and all? And so it's like that's going to be resolved. we're going to have to figure that out.
Brush off the old Constitution. Make sure this puppy still holds up. Hey, man, it's like a blood sacrifice, right? It's like every 1,000 years we must sacrifice 1,000 babies, and it's like break out the Constitution, bring it down from the Aztec pyramid, and we're all in hoods, like whoa, just slitting throats, and the First Amendment stands, and the rest of the world's like, that's why we don't fuck with America, because they're clinically insane.
Wait, all right, is that an S or an F?
What?
You know what I'm talking about?
No, was that a joke I didn't get?
Yeah, how in the cursive writing of the day, S's and lowercase F's looked almost exactly the same.
Really? So what would that be? Freedom of speech?
It's something like
freedom
that.
Freedom of speech?
That's what it looks like in some of the feech. Yeah.
Feech. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, that's one thing I have to kind of note is like when we're talking about this stuff, that I'm like, wait, I have a biology degree. I'm not a legal scholar. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is the First Amendment that's allowed, and this is the, like, no, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so you're a biology guy and I'm a computer programmer, and we're sitting here talking about the law.
Let us tell you, everybody, about how it works. Let us tell you about the trials and tribulations of the First Amendment. What are y'all's experiences? Shut the fuck up and listen. All right? Court is in session.
So anyway, I had a busy week at work and got several customers building things that shouldn't work that I got to make work. Usual, day at the job.
That sounds stupid.
Well, I would normally. Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's the literal home. In one case, it's like I got a customer who's almost literally building this complex filling machine in a warehouse, and it's like someone building it in their garage.
Jesus.
It's like you're thinking it's like, oh, you take this thing and CNC cut it. It's like, oh no, it's like there's these 3 guys, they got a plasma torch, and it's like, and there's like, and he's like, oh, drop that thing 5 inches. Let's see how it works then. And I'm like, oh my God.
No, I'm not getting involved with this. I'm not getting involved with this. I'm trying to fucking figure out I don't know why this thing's bothering me so much now. It keeps getting not important.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's when you get it to where it sounds best, it obscures your face quite a bit. So, and that's distracting from our standpoint as readers. So it's like you notice that I have this below my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm watching that because I know that when it starts obstructing my mouth, that's one of the things that viewers are it's going to annoy the hell out of them.
So what I need to do is just get like one of those Da Vinci robots, those like surgeon robots where it has like 8 arms, and I just need like 8 microphones around me.
Yeah. Hey, that's a way to do it, man.
That is a way to do it. So with your readings that we did last week, or I guess the last several weeks, were those in chronological order?
Yes.
But the last one kind of touched on the first one.
Well, the last one was sort of an overview. So the first one was Passages in the Void was sort of an overview thing, and it was in 3 parts.
Can you bring your mic a little closer?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Passages in the Void, the original one, was in 3 parts. One of which was somewhat contemporary, and by which I mean it was only 50,000 years in the future. Then arranging for the Andromeda run, and then there's a mature society at Andromeda, to which the original human origins are now mythological. And that was a standalone story when I wrote it. I didn't anticipate that I would ever write it. In fact, I didn't anticipate anyone ever read it, because like Moby, it was one of the 2 things that I ever wrote for myself without even realizing anyone else would ever write it or read it. And then Corrosion came along. So The Passage Home was a direct sequel to the first part of Passages. So it is, after these ships have actually established human colonies in the Milky Way, then the Passage Home is a sequel to that idea happening. It's the next thing that happens. Rite of Passage is the sequel to the Passage Home. It takes place on Earth after the Bringer and recolonizes the Earth. Mortal Passage is sort of a step back, and it establishes the background for everything. It is Bringer's origin story.
Okay.
And a lot of people asked me after the first couple of stories, why does this super intelligent artificial intelligence have this dog-like loyalty to biological human beings? That doesn't make any sense. And particularly at the time, there was a lot of theorizing going on about this. Eliezer Yudkowsky was a semi-big name in some corners. And they were like, these machines, they would form their own order. They, why would they remain interested in us at all? And Mortal Passage sort of answered that, because it showed that these machines were us. They had been human themselves,
yes,
even though they forgot.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's part of the thing about being human is they forgot that they had once been human. And that forgetting is a very human thing to do.
Yeah.
My dad told me this, like, that one of the things that he found most striking about the Mortal Passage was the forgetting.
Yeah.
Because a properly built machine, why would it ever throw away information? We had the discussion about big data a few weeks ago, and it's like, well, because they live a very, 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 very long time, and so no, they our ability to forget becomes useful to them, even with their superior everything. They're 1,000 times smarter than we are, 1,000 times more everything, but they're not infinite. And so one of the things that we will see coming up soon is the Borden, the machines that intercepted the Bringer in the third part, because Revelation Passage is for the most part the sequel to the third part of Passages in the Void, where Bringer wakes up in a human body with this alien android robot at the foot of its bed. And that's where Revelation Passage springs from.
It's kind of a 2001 A Space Odyssey-ish, right, in the book, when the guy was...
I can't deny that I might have been thinking of that just a teensy bit.
I mean, but I don't think anyone can, it's like saying, all the religions stole the flood story from each other. There are certain things where it almost seems like 2001 A Space Odyssey. It's like there are certain aspects of that where it's like, it's almost like a patent that maybe should run out by now, because there's a certain idea of like an archaeological dig, finding some alien technology.
Well, the thing is, Arthur C. Clarke was not a stranger to spiritual-logical ideas himself. And so he incorporated religious themes into his stories very freely. And a lot of those go back much further than science fiction. So he had some of those ideas in what was it? The space elevator story that he wrote.
I don't know.
Dang.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's like, the title just goes boom, always. It's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, but The Fountains of Paradise. But there's a scene in The Fountains of Paradise where he's moved one of the equatorial islands closer to the equator to make it a more suitable landing spot for a space elevator. And there's a Buddhist, I think it's Buddhist, monastery on the top of it. And the they of course have the rights. They have absolutely they want nothing to do with the space elevator project. That's but they have this legend that if the migrating butterflies ever reach the summit, that's the divine telling them they fulfilled their purpose and they can move on. And they do an experiment with the weather that blows the butterflies up to the top of the summit, and the monks are just like, all right, well, that's us.
That's it. Yeah, it's time to go. It's like,
yeah,
when they were,
you guys want to cut the top off the mountain and put a space elevator here? It's
you're
like,
good. It's all yours.
Not us anymore. Yeah. So, Clark, he had a keen eye for things like that. But part of that was he lived in that part of the world, and he was British, but immersed himself in the Eastern cultures. Mm-hmm. And people don't think about it as much, but he invented the geosynchronous satellite.
Oh, and
really? He was the first person who had the idea. And there are people who to this day will say if he had thought to patent it, he would have been the richest man alive.
Probably.
But instead of patenting it, he wrote a science fiction story. And in the science fiction story, the Russians park the geosynchronous satellite where it can beam its content to America, and it's all of this subversive content that's designed to corrupt our culture. And we can't do anything about it because it's in outer space.
I was going to say the whole blowing the butterflies up, that reminds me of a thing where, like in the Cold War when they were testing, I think like the SR-71, or it might have been the U-2, when it would go above a certain, or it might have been the X-15, when they'd go to like these super high altitudes, like 200,000 feet, and they would notice that the windshields, the pilots would note that there's like this black, almost goo. It looked like melted metal, and they didn't know, was there something wrong with the alloys? Was this just a new effect? Because no one had been that high yet. This was the first people to go up there, and they're like, "Fuck! Is there like this new thing? Like we're gonna have to design for it. Like we should probably halt the program and figure out what this is. Is it corrosion? Is it whatever?" And they did like a test on it, and they found out it was organic material, and they realized what it was. And I swear to God, not the A-bombs, but the hydrogen bombs, the big boys, the big megaton motherfuckers that we drop out in the Pacific. They were so powerful that when they would explode and then they would suck everything up into the stratosphere, in that upward vacuum, as it would take up trillions of bugs. No, bugs.
Bugs and fish and everything, the biological material.
And it would throw it up into orbit,
into the stratosphere.
It would stay, so it's still there. So if you go up there past a certain altitude, you will accrue bugs on your windshield that have been frozen and have been preserved in the tens of miles up. There's a sphere of bugs that have been sucked up.
That is such a perfect 20th century thing.
Oh yeah, no, because they could test them, and they all had like the radioisotopes from the H-bomb, and it was like, yeah, there's bugs up there that got sucked up from H-bomb testing. Fucking awesome.
Yeah. That's oh god. Oh man. I love being human, and it's so fucking embarrassing at the same time.
I love it. I have no shame. Because you know what? I think right now we're in like a weird... Says
the man wearing the self-designed hoodie with all the
ancient gods.
Crap. Yeah, the psychedelic crap on it.
I love it. I have no... Because I think that we're in like a weird... I think we're in like our cringy blunder years of a species. Where it's like, it's like, right, it's like high school. It's like you get your car, right, your first fucking, like, you're maybe messing around with women, you're trying to, maybe you and your friends drink or you smoke a cigarette. It's this weird, you still have these weird sort of childish, there are cliques and popularity and shit. Not to say that doesn't exist when you're older as well, but there's this weird, you're doing this weird, one foot is still in like the pool of adolescence, and one is like you're dipping into adulthood, because there are things like going out without your parents, which you do for the rest of your life, maybe drinking, maybe sex, maybe parties, maybe, and it's this weird. And so what the result is just all around cringe. You just look back and you're like, oh, me and my friends driving around.
Oh my God, did I do
You're
that?
like, oh, but it's this weird. We got.
But on the other hand, people, then Ron Howard makes a movie about it. It's American Graffiti, and it's like the best thing since sliced bread.
But it's what it is like it's this weird. We're in this weird like teenage like blunder years where we have like nuclear weapons, we have space travel, we have the internet. You know, it's like we have this global connected brain that we access through silicon devices all over the world, hyperconnectivity at light speed, and like the majority of it is like porn. Like, you know, it's like the power of the atom. What are you going to do with it? Vaporize our enemies. And it's like, no, it's endless energy. And it's like, no, kill the Japs. And it's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
It's this weird middle ground.
It was porn, then it was stealing music, then it was movies.
Yeah. And then even now it's just like theft, right? It's just as we're seeing on Wall Street right now, right? Same thing with planes. It's like planes, we can fly.
How's your GameStop stock doing?
Actually, we need to go. I don't have any games. No, I don't have any GameStop. I wish I did. Dude, I already have to pee. This is earlier than normal. Roger, hold it down, but I do want to talk about GameStop. Roger, hold it down. Tell them where to get your book.
Yeah, okay. The Metamorphosis Prime Intellect is available on Amazon and all the usual online retailers. But if you would like a paper copy, I do encourage you to go directly to Lulu, LULU.com, and buy it from them because they are the original print-on-demand publisher. They have to charge you the same amount. So it won't be any different. Their service is just as good, but I get a lot more of the money. I mean, like seriously, a lot more, like $6 instead of $1.50, because they don't have to give Amazon their cut. So that's just the thing. And also, most of my stuff is available for free on the web. If you go to localroger, LOCALROGER.com. If some of the stuff is on Smashwords, and I don't have it locally hosted anymore, but if you go there is an option to set your own price, and you can set your own price to $0, and I don't mind. That's just I was told that if I did it that way, that Google wouldn't delist my site for redundant content, and they delisted it anyway, so whatever. So anyway, so here's Tommy again.
Here's Tommy. So with what all is going on with GameStop, and in true fashion, I'll ask you a question and then I'll run my mouth anyway. All I know is that there was a stock that some rich people thought was going to go down, so some plebs like us.
Well, what you got there is a true battle of the assholes. So the origin for the on the side of the rich scumbags is that a bunch of sharks saw that this is a company in serious trouble because their brick and mortar store, we know what's going with them, selling video games, most of which are now sold online anyway. It's like the latest version of one of the game consoles doesn't even have a hard drive. It's all online. So GameStop has become like their reason for existence has been fading rapidly. And so these other people's money type people saw this and started circling like bump, 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 bump. And they shorted the stock in a major way. It's like we're going, which in its own way, people take large short positions being taken on a stock affect its value negatively for other reasons, and so this is basically they were circling to destroy the company and feast on its remains. So there is a Reddit group called Wall Street Bets, and they are not the good guys either. They characterize themselves as 4chan with a Bloomberg account. That is the subtitle for their Reddit. When you put r/Wall Street Bets in, that I was Wall Street Bets.
I was perma banned from Reddit. I was IP banned from Reddit.
I have been meaning to ask you how you managed to do that, because they're kind of reluctant to do that to people unless there's a really good reason. But anyway, for the current story, that's another story for a different time.
Okay, it has happened. It's a factual thing. IMIP banned.
Yeah. So Wall Street Bets. There is a core group there that are basically anarchists with a really solid understanding of capitalism and all of its flaws. And they saw, and GameStop wasn't the first case where they saw this. Apparently, this is a thing that they've been kind of circling toward. But this is where they pounced, and they saw an opportunity to basically stick it to the hedge funds by pouncing on the stock that the hedge funds were shorting and drive the price up by buying a lot of it and pumping it, in other channels, which wasn't hard because they're doing this libertarian thing. They have this thing called YOLOing. You only live once. Put your life savings into this thing that it might crash anyway, but hey, whatever, which is in itself kind of an evil thing to be doing to the less knowledgeable people that you're hitting with this propaganda. But the thing is, they hit the hedge funds hard. Can
you rewind for a second? So how did they find this out? Because
it's public. You short a company, it's a public thing.
But how come? I guess my question is, and I'm not defending either of them. I don't give a fuck. Not because I have a moral stance, but because I don't have holdings in either. So I personally am just watching it like gladiators.
Neither do I. For disclosure.
Yeah, we're watching it like gladiators. Roger and I are the evil defense contractors. We're like, bully, fight.
Yes, we're in the stadium at the Coliseum watching this happen down in the bottom of the stadium.
Slaughter each other, you animals. But
yes, don't the barbarians usually lose this contest?
Yes. So what has? I guess my question is, and maybe it's not important, is why hasn't this happened before?
Well, it took a confluence of things like the internet culture dynamic that allowed a lot of people to sort of get on the meme at the same time, be willing to invest a few $100 or $1,000 on a lark and convince each other to do it. And part of it is the Robinhood thing, the Robinhood app notwithstanding, but the actual idea of sticking it to the man. The fact that they succeeded so spectacularly is going to make the next few months on Wall Street really interesting. The next thing, of course, that happened is all right. So what they did is they got enough people to buy this dollar stock that was about to fall off the exchange. It was so cheap to pump it up. And the thing about when you're shorting a stock, there are set points where you have to make your calls, because when you short a stock, what you basically do is you borrow the shares and promise to pay what they were worth when you borrowed for them, when you borrowed them at the time you sell them. So it's possible to lose more than you invested if the stock goes up too much.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. That's also true of margin calls. You can lose more than you invested.
So if I invest $10,000 in Nike and then it goes to zero, like I lose. I can only lose my $10K.
Right. But if you short Nike when its stock price is $100 and it goes to $1,000, then you've got to cover those stocks. You've got to pay the $1,000 a share to make it up to the people you've promised those shares to.
So if you
can lose
$10,000, so unlike Nike where I maybe can only lose that $10,000, now maybe I have to cover 90.
Yeah, you can lose many times your investment because you've got to come through with those stocks. And what you've done is you didn't have them.
So that's the risk reward, though, of being able to short, is that you might get fucked. Okay, I'm following.
Right. Yes. And there are some margin call things that are similar. One of my friends got caught in that in the after 9/11. But yeah, for sure, with shorting, that's one of the things, is that when you short, and what they do too is you have to demonstrate that you have enough credit or resources to cover the call when you short a stock. And what will happen is, if you've shorted a stock and your position expires in 30 days, but after 15 days the stock has gone up so much in price that it's exhausted your credit line or your established credit, they will tell the brokerage will tell you, you've got to cover your position. You have to go ahead and provide it now while you still can.
So you can't wait out the 30 days. You can't hope it goes back down.
Nope. You will be told you've got to supply, maybe not the whole thing, but at least part of it, in order to make sure that you have the liquidity to fulfill your obligations when it's done. Because otherwise, you could wait it out and find out that the thing has gone up 10,000%, and you're just like, you have no means at all to cover it. So they want to prevent that. So what they'll do is it's like they establish what your credit line is when you short a stock. And if you start to get close to that before your position is matured, they'll come to you and say, you got to satisfy some of this now.
Okay.
And that was what was happening. And that meant the shorters were having to buy the stock. And that was driving the price up even more, so that they could establish, so that they could maintain their positions and all. So yeah, I mean, it's like, this is how it was a very these hedge fund guys have gotten very used to doing this, because they the market has gotten used to people taking this stupidly extreme positions. And there's a lot of people that have been yelling in our ears for 20 years that this is a bunch of bullshit. And it's like all of these artificial things that, all this stuff other than just investing in the stock, all of these derivatives and all. Yeah. Are very dangerous. They create a lot of volatility in the market. And the 4chan, the Wall Street Bets guys, the 4chan guys with the
Bloomberg
trading account, they saw a possibility. Basically, what they were doing there is like an epic troll.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just caught that wave and ran that motherfucker out. And the thing is like, and don't and make no mistake, a lot of little people are going to get burned, because they're going to be buying the stock when it's high. They're not going to get out in time. Whatever, the thing is eventually going to crash a bit because the fundamentals are not there. Although this has helped the actual company, because they've been able to, GameStop was like on the ropes. They were getting ready to go full blockbuster. And now this surge in their stock price has enabled them to pay off their debts.
So the question is GameStop behind the Reddit movement? Are they a bunch of executives like, fuck it, we're swinging for the fences?
Probably not. I don't think they're that smart.
Roger, let me imagine, okay? God damn, why must you take my dream and just shit on it? But
there's also some other companies that these guys have also homed in on. AMC,
Naked,
which is
the theater, Naked, right? NAKD.
Yeah. No, AMC is close to my heart, because it's an AMC theater where my dad and I were meeting before the COVID mess. We would go see a movie every week or two.
I'm sorry. I'm pulling up E-Trade right now. Sorry, keep talking.
Yeah. So you had them. Bed Bath and Beyond is another, and they've slowed trading in a lot of these companies. There was a lot of pissed off people, because at the height of all this, the Robinhood app just ceased trading. They disallowed buying shares of GameStop, and the the little guys are like, oh, so the hedge funds can keep buying or do whatever they want. But when the little guy starts to win something, we get screwed, right? Yeah, that's what happens.
So what, because if it's, hey, you guys are foreclosing on my grandma's house, she doesn't have a place to live, it's fuck you. Yeah. All right, you don't have a home anymore. So
now it turns out there is a legitimate reason for this that has to do with liquidity, because Robinhood doesn't take commissions, so they don't have a lot of liquidity. Okay. And when they get a stock doing all this weird volatile shit, then they've got to cover their position with the guys upstream that they're arranging these trades. And a lot of these trades don't actually go through for a day or two.
Okay.
So Robinhood is they're shutting it down because they're in an exposed position. But the little guy is thinking, this is a casino. I made a bet. What the fuck is the problem?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is about it, though, is that the brilliant thing is that what the 4chan with the Bloomberg account people were wanting to do was to demonstrate what a scam it is. That it is.
The whole thing is just a fucking illusion.
Yes, and they're sitting back now, folding their arms, cackling, sitting on their $1 million that they won, and going, this happened because y'all set this bullshit up.
Yeah.
And now everyone's going to be asking you why. And that's a very good question, because a lot of this was set up so the rich people could become richer and fuck the poor people.
So how come? So all these guys buying all the shorts, and it's like once you get past this mark, you have to pay your credit line. What you're saying earlier, they're kind of coming in and you collecting their checks. So is the same thing happen? Is that what you're saying is happening with like Robinhood? Is the guys above them are like, you got to pay up because they don't do commissions?
It's a little more subtle, but yeah, it basically is that they have to cover their position. If they've issued $300,000 million worth of buys for this stock, then when that trade goes through, they have to have the cash to cover it. And because they are a commission-free trader, their argument was, look, we don't have this. We had to stop it in order to gather our resources and cover our position.
Whose fault is that? It sounds like it's their fault.
Well, the whole thing is a gigantic scam. I mean, none of this shit works the way anyone thinks that it does. It's like you go into a casino and it's simple. You put your bet on the roulette wheel, they spin the wheel. If your number hits, they pay you, and if it don't, they take your money. End of story. On Wall Street, it's way the hell more complicated, because you've got these entities that are taking your bets, but they're taking way the hell more bets than they could ever cover. See, generally a casino doesn't take more bets than it can cover if it gets really unlucky. Wall Street does. Your broker does.
Okay.
If a bunch of your broker's customers all get the same memo at the same time and say, man, this thing is going in the toilet, I'm dumping it. Well, you issue those sellers. I don't know if you've ever done a trade. Of course, I have. Every once in a while, I have a simple IRA. So every once in a while, I've got to move my money from the cash account where my company dumps it to something where it can make some money. So every month or two, I log in and I do a transfer. And the way that they tell you that this works is, we've logged this. And then you come back 2 days later and you find out that the trade went through and what price it went through at, because it may not have been the price that you thought it would be by the time the trade was transacted. So this is the thing. Wall Street is much mushier than a casino, because you've got all of these entities that are protecting their own positions and that have the theoretical capacity, if they fuck up bad enough, to go bankrupt out from under you as the totally unrelated investor, and then you're screwed. This is one of the things that happened at the outset of the Great Depression, was a lot of these companies that were doing the trades And it was much simpler then than it is now. They didn't have all these derivative things going. So you've got a company that is basically covering a bunch of positions. And the reason they call hedge funds is that they try to make sure their positions oppose one another, so that if they lose here, they win over here, kind of like a bookie.
Yeah,
they try to balance their action.
Yeah.
But they don't always succeed. And what happened with the GameStop thing is that Robinhood couldn't balance its action. It had everyone in the whole visible universe trying to buy this stock. And it knew that if there was a reversal, or if anything went remotely wrong, or if any of these people, some of them were first-time traders. The thing about Robinhood is you don't have to fully fund your account in order to make a trade. So they were like, they could be caught with their pants down and unable to cover their position, and then really bad things happen.
So what I was going to say is, well, I know just in my simple, trading on E-Trade with like a couple grand is like that I toy with, is like, I know that if I sell a stock and then buy a new stock with those proceedings, I can't sell that second stock within like a certain number of days because the transaction hasn't gone fully through. And if I do that, my account will be per the E-Trade warning is I will be banned from the market for 90 days per SEC rules. Right. So we have these weird things where, okay, like I'm held to that. But what I was also going to say is about GameStop. I went and tried to buy GameStop on Wednesday, but the thing
didn't work too well, did it?
Well, no, it was because I used E-Trade, so I've never even used Robinhood. I never heard of it before this week. I couldn't buy it on E-Trade either, though. It didn't exist. I'd go to it, and it would
within about 4 hours, it affected everybody.
Yeah.
Robinhood was the first, but everyone else followed through very quickly, and for the same reason.
Can you like turn your microphone towards you or bring it closer? Yeah.
Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. I'm pretty sure this is directional microphone. So, yeah.
But no, you're fine. It's so. Okay, so go back to where we were.
All right. Robinhood was the first to cancel, to stop trading on GameStop, but they were quickly followed by almost everybody else. Okay. In fact, pretty much, if you wanted to buy GameStop's stock after about 4 hours after Robinhood, if you weren't a hedge fund with like deep ties somewhere, you couldn't. And this is one of the things that the 4chan with the Bloomberg account guys are complaining about is like, yeah, the big guys, they can do whatever they want. But when we start making too much money, we get shut down. It was like, yep. Now, it's more complicated than that because actually, I do believe that it was Robinhood covering their own ass and the other traders making sure they didn't put their pants pulled down, but it just looks bad. And I think that part of the intention, these guys on Wall Street bets, the fact that they named their Reddit what they did implies that they're basically anarchists who have a very dim view of the market as an entity and a very deep understanding of how it works. And that's why they have that dim view. And they saw this as an opportunity to pull the market's pants down.
Yeah, there was no, we're getting rich. It was like, hey, someone just...
Oh, they got rich too.
Yeah.
They did.
They did.
They did that too.
That's the thing is, when I wanted to buy it on Wednesday, it was...
Yeah. It's like, did you ever see the movie The Big Short?
No.
It's worthwhile. One of the things is that the guys in The Big Short, they took a huge risk and they became rich. They became like mega yacht, multi-billion, it's like they became hugely rich overnight by doing this when they could have gone bankrupt instead if they had not been right about what they were guessing. But at the same time, the Big Short guy said about the GameStop situation. If you're involved in this, you should, like, if you can, take your position now and just walk off, because this is dangerous. And he's kind of in a position to know, because they shorted the entire market. That was what the big short was they predicted that the entire market would collapse. They shorted the entire stock market.
That's awesome.
And it was difficult for them to find anyone who would take their bet. And then when it didn't, pan out for a few months, it was like they were getting deeper and deeper in. And like I said, if you're shorting, then you reach a position where you're expected to cover your position. And those guys really weren't in a position to do that. They were way the hell out over a line. So it was like almost in the nick of time when the market did what they expected and collapsed out from under them. And all of a sudden, they're billionaires. Jesus. But, yeah. Now, the GameStop guys, they didn't become billionaires. Some of them became millionaires. But also a lot of other smaller guys probably, got wiped out because...
My cousin knows someone, actually. My cousin texted me. And he was like, dude, my buddy is like 22 years old. And he just retired. I was like, what happened? And he was like, he invested like, I don't know, something like $100,000, like his life savings. And like, I think he does well for himself. I think he's like, he has a good job young, but I think he just said, fuck it, and went all in and then cashed out like before the whole thing died.
Oh, if you had $100,000 in GameStop before all this shit happened, then you don't have any reason to ever need to work at all.
Yeah. I think he just said this past week, this guy just retired. He's like 22.
Yeah. Yeah, now you have $100 million.
Awesome.
So it's like, okay, yeah, that would be cool. Of course, the downside of that is you lose your $100,000, and now it takes an ordinary person a while to raise that kind of coin.
Yeah.
So
sorry, my dad has like a 1970 something TR6, and he's in the garage revving the engine. So if the whole room is vibrating, I don't know if you can hear that.
Oh, yeah. I can a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, though. It's low frequency. So.
No, okay, good. The microphone's not picking it up because the room shakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it, but it's not like overpowering your voice or anything.
Okay. So now where do we stand right now? Because when I looked at it on Wednesday, I think maybe it was Tuesday. When I originally looked at it, it was at 145, and I thought about buying some. It jumped up to 370.
It's the weekend.
Yeah, well, I know that now.
It doesn't have a value at the moment. That's I've seen 140, 370, like you say. A lot is going to depend on what happens in the last few moments before the market opens on Monday morning. And at this point, no one can say. It's that's the way the market is. It's the weekend. It's a holiday. Who the fuck knows what this thing is worth? We'll find out when the market opens and all the corrections happen based on those trades that haven't gone through because the market has been closed.
What if this breaks the whole stock market?
Well, I think that's what the Wall Street bets guys want. I think...
Of course. So I don't know why I thought, what if this happens? They're like, that's the point.
Yeah. I mean, what they want to show is that it's absurd. It's ridiculous and stupid. And there are a lot of more moderate people who would be in favor of saying, like, all of these derivative operations, shorting, margin calls, all this artificial shit should just be eliminated. It's like, if you want to participate in the market, you invest in the company and you own part of the company. And if you don't want to own part of the company, then you sell it. And that's how you participate in the stock market. And that should be the only way, because all this other stuff is really just fucking with the fundamentals and causing all kinds of chaos, where people are taking something that is real and turning it into smoke and then smoking it. We saw a similar thing with the housing market in 07 and 08. When all that collapsed, and a lot of that was that people had taken mortgages and packaged them into these derivative, whatever they call, projects or something, these products, as they call it, where you are betting that the market will go one way or the other, but you're not actually holding the mortgages. And the thing that was wrong with that in a lot of cases is that real estate has a lot of very particular laws about things you have to do in order to register ownership. And these financial derivative companies weren't following the law. So there's a lot of people whose property is never going to have clear title again because of this. No one knows who holds the deed.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad I paid my house off before any of that shit happened. It's like, I actually have the deed to my house. It's a piece of paper that I got from the,
government.
The government, from the local government.
From the local government. But because
it's the local government that does real estate transactions. And so you get an international corporation, a bank, trying to package 100,000 mortgages as a financial instrument, and it really, you can make that work mathematically as a thing that you might want to do, but it doesn't work legally, as and as some of these guys suddenly found out. But the thing with GameStop, though, that wasn't as shady. That was just the practice of doing these things with stocks. It really started with commodities, with things like potatoes and pork bellies and all in the Chicago commodity markets. And there, you can make an argument that it's not as shady. Or even if it is shady, that what you're doing there is providing liquidity for the people who actually need the product. So somebody needs a railroad car full of sugar 6 months from now. They know they're going to need it. They can go to the commodity market and lock in their price. And then the gamblers can squabble among themselves over who's going to eat it if you didn't pay enough, or who's going to reap the benefit if you paid more than you really needed to. But when you start doing that with stocks for actual companies that are in business, then you start clouding the fundamentals. Like one of the things I said, there's been very little written about how all this crap has affected GameStop itself as a company. And I saw a passing reference earlier today that, this allowed them to clear up all their debts because they were able to use their, sell some of their inflated stock and sell off their debts. Well, that, for a company that has been failing, trying to figure out how they're going to clear their debts and all, that gives them more time to make payroll and pay rent on their brick and mortar stores and figure out if they can maybe find a new business model that they wouldn't have had before, because the shorters were just counting on them to go, like that. And so to that sense, I suspect that the Wall Street Bets guys are thinking, we're the good guys.
We're giving them a second. We're giving them a resuscitation.
But you've also got a bunch of people who came in on this and aren't going to cash out at the right time, who are the small guys who are still going to get screwed. And that happened in The Big Short, too. It's like the Big Short people had, there's this scene toward the end when they're like, well, we got rich, but a lot of other people got screwed because we knew they were going to get screwed, and we used the fact that we knew they were going to get screwed to make ourselves get rich, and that money came from somewhere. And right now the Wall Street Bets people are making like, well, we got rich and that money came from the hedge funds. Well, that was partially true. But that money also came from anyone who was dumb enough to buy GameStop at $300 a share. But
to that, there's also like responsibility. That I know I sound like such an like a old like white Republican. I'm like, well, you got it, but I mean, like someone like me that like I have an addictive personality. I have a terribly addictive personality. I mean, Jesus Christ, the podcast we're at episode 3. Oh, this is episode 333. Is but even me, like I saw it going up, and I was like Wednesday. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. But I mean, I had to use my brain, and I was like, I'm going to sell all my Tesla stock and buy Gamestop. And then I paused, and I was like, I don't know shit about this. I'm not going to do that. And like, that's not fun, but like, I did that. So part of me is also like, I don't really feel bad for anyone. I feel bad for them, but I also, you know, if you get fucked in this, that's kind of like whether you're a hedge fund or a small guy, like, you know.
Well, and of course
use your brain. That's not my fault. Use your brain.
Well, to a certain extent, that's kind of the theory behind all of this.
Yeah.
But you also have to ask how much of that is just cruelty.
Sure.
Yeah, and because none of us knows everything.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, there are a lot of really stupid people walking around out there who don't necessarily deserve to be reduced to homelessness.
Just because you're stupid doesn't mean that. Like,
so,
just because your house isn't up to fire code doesn't mean I should throw a Molotov in there to prove a point. Like,
right?
It's like you can just like tell them you should get your house up to code. You don't have to burn it down.
Yeah, and sort of there's a thing that that whole personal responsibility thing, the rugged individualism and all, and a lot of that is just fuck the other guy. If he's that dumb, I got mine. Fuck you, Jack. Did you ever see the Michael Moore film Sicko? About that was the film Michael Moore made about the health industry before the ACA was even a glint in someone's eye, as it turned out. And he went all over the world showing how other people's health systems worked versus how ours did, and how you weren't thrown to the sharks just because you got cancer.
Yeah.
And ended up homeless because of it. And there's a very poignant thing. I mean, it's like, I know a lot of people hate Michael Moore and can't even stand his voice, but he is, whether you like him or not, kind of an everyman. I mean, see, he grew up in Flint, Michigan. He feels what it is like to live in that culture and in that society. And after touring Europe and showing the medical systems in France and Britain and all, and he came back and he said, a lot of it is that they have a we society. It's about us. It's about holding together and about supporting those of us who trip when they need help, versus a me society where we only care about our own welfare, and the guy next to us trips and it's like, just fuck that guy.
Yeah.
And having grown up in America, that resonated completely with me.
Yeah. To touch on. Sorry.
I know some fabulous people that are wonderful individuals that I've learned a great deal from, that I know they think of themselves as being wonderful individuals and all, but they also have that, if you're not with us, if you're not in our group, they're fine with picking you up if you're in their group.
Yeah.
But as far as doing it, if you're not, you just happen to be American, but you're not a member of the white Louisiana Italian community or whatever, then get a job.
Yeah.
Fuck you. It's like, you can deal with it.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. No, I
got mine. Fuck you, Jack. And
I get what you're saying on that. What I was saying earlier about about GameStop, I'm saying it as someone that doesn't own any. So it's not even that I bought 1,000 shares and I'm like, I got mine, fuck you. I'm looking at it as someone that, like, I looked at it and said, I'm not going to do that because that seems too risky. I mean, I look at it like in college when I got a 99 in OChem 2 and the class average was a 55. And I remember the professor saying half of you are going to fail. This is the most. Dr. Hubbard, I remember him saying in summer 2012, half of you are going to fail. This is the most I've ever failed anyone in this course. But one student has a 99, so the curve is only going to be 1 point. So most of you are going to go from a 55 to a 56. So I imagine you should all drop out. I did that to a lot of people. But I look at it as is everyone said, why do you do that? You only need to get an 80 and yours will be rounded up to an A. At which point I think like, hey, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to do well at this. To me, I don't look at it as a fuck you, I got mine. I'm just like, hey, the gates open at the beginning of the semester. Here's the material. Here's the test.
Yeah.
If I got 100, I'm trying to get into med schools where tens of thousands apply and 100 get in. So like,
well, that's a completely different thing.
So what I'm saying is, no, but what I'm saying is this is although I don't own any GameStop stock, like I still had to look at it and still use my own self-control and go, I don't think that's a good idea because I don't know anything about shorting, and so I'm going to keep my boring portfolio and abstain from this casino game. Whereas others that get in on it and then get fucked, like, you know,
that was the wise course of action.
Because that's what I mean.
Unless you were in on the whole plan, then you might have made a lot of money if you got lucky, but you could have also lost a bunch of money if you didn't really understand the dynamics of what these core guys who were driving it were trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so they got a wave started. And the thing about a wave is once you get it started, you can't necessarily stop it. Yeah. But they pushed it in a certain direction and then sat back and sipped their pina coladas and checked their positions every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
They knew when it was time to cash some of their shit out and all. But if you're not part of that group and you don't know what's going on, then you're gambling.
Well, and that's
I understand what these people are up to or not?
Well, that's what I'm saying is like where healthcare is. I'm with you, even as a conservative. I'm with you. I'm like, something needs to change. You can't just be thrown at the sharks because you got cancer. What I'm making with this argument is like buying GameStop stock is like you as an adult have to consciously log in and make that trade. And so part of me is like, if you go spend all that money, like that's on you.
That's on you.
And like, part of me is like, I'm sorry if you just lost 100K doing that, but I can't pull out sympathy for this people because in its own gambling sort of way, they're hedging their own bets. If I lose it, I can pull I'm little Bo Peep. I didn't know what I was doing. But if they won, they're sitting in their penthouse looking at me saying, fuck you, I got mine. So there's part of me where it's like, GameStop it's not health insurance, it's not drinking water. I kind of look at it as like, you went in and made that choice. You went in and played that game. No one told you to go into the casino and throw it. And again, I know I sound like a 90-year-old white Republican, like you made your bed. But part of me is like, hey.
No, but as a relatively liberal Democrat, I completely agree with you about that whole assessment.
Yeah, it's. Well, this isn't fun when we agree with each other because now there's no friction. This doesn't make a good podcast. Fuck you and everything you stand for, Roger. Black Power, the Nation of Islam will rise. Not that this channel was going to get monetized, but but yeah, it's that dual. If we're gonna say that little guy can't get fucked like that by getting robbed by GameStop. But then at the same time, that means we also have to say, hey, no one's allowed to make it.
Well, and part of this though is the whole thing of this. The whole reason it came about is because of this financial culture of these abstract derivative products.
Isn't there something? Sorry, isn't there something like? I remember looking this up years ago, and there's something like. There's like a couple $quadrillion of derivatives, and it like far outweighs the world's actual like currency supply.
Yeah, it is. It's stupid. It's like it's poised to collapse.
Let's look it up. Total derivatives market. Oh Jesus! In 2019, An estimated $640 trillion. 640 trillion. America's debt is 27.
What's the GDP of the entire world?
Global GDP. Do you want to take bets? I say.
I'm going to say it's not $600 trillion.
I'm going to say it's 50 trillion. What's your bet? I'm not looking it up yet. What's your bet? As of January 30th, Saturday, January 30th.
I'm going to say 20 trillion.
Okay, Saturday, January 30th, 2021, 6:36 p.m. Eastern Time. Roger says 20, I say 50. Global GDP. Is that what I should be Googling?
Yeah.
Global 80 trillion.
Oh.
Huh. That's from 2017.
So you were closer than me.
Huh. Wow. Is that really right? 2017, according to the CIA World Factbook, the global GDP was around 80.27 trillion.
All right,
and
around
127 in terms of purchasing power parity, which I don't know anything about.
Yeah, but that's still nowhere near 600 trillion.
No, that's the important thing.
Yeah. Jeez. So it's like there's still a lot of shit floating out there that has nothing underneath it to support it.
Global derivative.
And that's kind of what the Wall Street bets guys were trying to do, is to bring attention to the fact that the whole thing is just stupidly crooked. And I respect that about them. I don't respect much else about them, but
little Joker-esque. They're just pointing out the hypocrisy. They're not here for the cure.
Oh, they were very, very joking. They were Fortran with a Bloomberg account.
Yeah.
4chan, okay?
They were putting on the makeup and cutting the mouth.
they're like one step before that. And the thing is, it's like, this is the scene where like the Joker blows up the hospital, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, hey, that worked.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's kind of like, didn't really give a shit. Like, it was like, huh.
Yeah, I mean, that's what these guys, it's like, and it was brilliant. I mean, I got to give them that. It was fucking brilliant.
So
evil it was not necessarily, they're not the good guys, but they did shine a spotlight on some other guys who are not so good either, and those guys are not real happy about it at the moment.
So right now I'm finding something from April 2020 that says the derivatives market is the derivatives market is closer to $1.5 quadrillion.
Yeah.
That's
which tells you that there's a lot of stuff floating on stuff that doesn't exist.
There's a lot of, right? That's like if I email 10 people, I'm like, will you do a Saturday podcast?
Yeah.
And then Roger says yes, and then 9 people say yes, and I'm like, who?
And then you got 8 novels to read before tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and it's like, and I have done that. I did. Remember when I had?
I remember, yes. That's why I said that.
That actually,
I remember that.
That actually happened right when the podcast got funded, and I quit my job, and I was like, I'm going to go into this thing swinging. And whereas normally about 1 in 20 authors will say yes, I went 20 for 20, and I was like, oh no. And then I was like, but I don't want to flake on all these people. I'm trying to build like a reputation. So you can go back and look in the episodes. It's probably around episode 200.
I remember when you were kind of freaking out about all that.
Yeah, you'd come on, you'd be like, Tommy, how you doing? And I'd be like, bags under my eyes. And I was listening to audio. I was listening to audio.
Can I put you off until until tomorrow? It's like a loan
shark. I was like, Roger, I'll have the podcast for you tomorrow. Can we push it back a week? I swear, I'm in tough times right now. But unlike a loan shark, you were just like, yeah, it's fine, dude. you're like, relax. And I'm like pacing, and I was listening to audiobooks at like 2x speed from the moment I woke up throughout the whole day. And I crushed 14 audiobooks in 10 days or something.
Well, see, that was the thing that was good for you is that you were at least able to speed those things up to 2 times and crush them. But the financial markets don't have that. It's like you've got all these entities that are on the hook for things that can't possibly be covered.
Yeah, but it's also I would say, unlike the financial markets, is I kind of got the shit slapped out of me because I realized I had to do this if I wanted to maintain any sort of reputation with these authors. And I also learned my lesson. I stopped doing it. I stopped doing the short selling
There
and
is
derivatives.
that. Yes.
Like you said, I said fuck all the derivative markets, and I came in and just said, if I buy a stock, I buy it, and if I sell it, and I stopped. Now I do about an author every 10 days or so, and I listen at a casual pace.
But the Wall Street guys they keep accelerating it. They keep inventing more and more creative ways to play with it. And, it's like, you remember there was a movie called The Grifters about 15, 20 years ago. And in one of their flashbacks, they showed one of the grifter characters reminiscing about a long con that they had pulled where they had convinced their mark that they had a computer that had a 7/10 of a second advantage on the stock market, and that this was their game that they were. And what they were really doing is they were grifting the guy. They were going to get his investment and then just take it. And what they actually did is they feigned the SEC rating them. But that whole idea that, yes, we have this fraction of a second. And then when I started to read about high frequency trading, it's like somebody watched this movie and said, damn, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, because I remember reading something in like 2010. I just remember reading it in like a Popular Mechanics magazine, but it was something about like Goldman Sachs investing like maybe like $1 billion in some transatlantic fiber line, and it's because they increased their trading speed something like 6/100ths of a second or something.
Yeah. And there was another one about someone setting up a shortwave radio link between, I think it may have been Detroit and New York, because even though the bandwidth wasn't that great, the latency was zero. And that latency, the difference between the, signal with 10 kilohertz bandwidth, but no latency going straight through, through the atmosphere versus the gigabit signal, but it goes through switches and routers and it's routed and it arrives, 0.2 of a second later. And they were going to use that. It's like when people are playing games like that, your system is broken.
It's broken, but man, at the same time, part of me kind of loves it because it's just like the world is just this. I mean, right now globally, like we think here I am with like my.
Oh yeah, it's a big fucking video game.
Yeah, no, we're here. Right now, I'm here with my 4K webcam and my microphone, and it's like we feel advanced, and we look back at the 1800s with those big hoop skirts and like amputations, and we're like those savages. But the reality is in like 200 years, they're going to be looking back at this and they're like, man. You used to be able to game the system not by making a sound company or investment, but you were just like, fuck it, let's use a ham radio. And it was just like, there's something...
And why does he have this big fucking thing hanging in front of his face?
Yeah, and it's like, but the thing is like, man, there's something almost kind of... and it's, again, very easy because I'm insulated from it. It doesn't affect my life. I get it, right? It's like when I was making bets this past summer about whether that the autonomous zone in Portland would turn into like an forward operating base for China. Like, I was like, maybe they'll come in. Maybe we're going to start seeing some like, regional warfare. But then it was also very easy for me to make those jokes. And then my buddy Phil came on, and Phil actually lives in Seattle with his like 3 kids. And I was like, okay, now it's very real. So it's, and I'm like, okay. So again, I say that kind of...
Yeah, there's actual people involved with this.
But the funny thing is then Phil comes on, and he's like, oh yeah, man, no, I'm watching it too. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I guess this whole thing's on fire. But so what I'm saying is, though, is like, so I have to note that like I can look at this kind of loosely and like romantically, admittedly. That being said, there's something a little like poetic about whether it's a shortwave radio or it's a Goldman Sachs transatlantic fiber optic line, or whether it's just some fucking disillusioned assholes on a subreddit who are just like, fuck it, let's bring the globe to its knees. There's something a little beautiful about that ability to throw a wrench into the system, because like a kid throwing a rock off a bridge, it's just kind of like, I kind of want to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, really, the whole thing with
it's Wild West. I love
the GameStop thing is very similar to the shortwave radio link and the fiber optic, but instead it was the ability to amass a mob. Yeah. And get them to all buy the same stock at the same time, even though it has no fundamentals, and buying it is a stupid thing to do because you only live once. YOLO!
But there's it's like that, it's like the NCAA. It's kind of like that March Madness thing where like the Cinderella team that sucks is just like plowing through like the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. There's something
I got to admit, when I first heard about this, I loved everything about it.
It's intoxicating. It's a break from the vanilla life.
Yeah. It's like, man, these guys. But the thing is, they're not heroes.
No. And like, let's point that out now.
They broke a lot of little people as well as the as the hedge funds. But it's just it really is very similar to the story of The Big Short in that they're sitting in a field of broken glass, handing holding up a wad of $100 bills. It's like it's like all right, we're in a wasteland here, but we won.
Yeah, right.
And,
it's like what terrified I think Eisenhower the most was one of his analysts saying, if there's a global thermonuclear war and at the end of the day 3 people on the earth are alive and it's 2 Americans and 1 Soviet, then we won. And Eisenhower was like, oh fuck, what is this game? He was like, no, we're not. And his analysts were like, we just got to have more souls than them. And he was like, there is no winning this game.
Wrong metric. No.
Yeah. But in a weird way, like the greatest gamble of it all is mutual assured destruction. And like so far, we've played that game for 76 years. 76 years this summer. We've been playing atomic weapons, and we're still here.
We have John Nash to thank for teaching us that was the way to play that game. Have you ever seen the movie A Beautiful Mind?
No, but hold that thought though. Is like, you got to think the creation of the Gatling gun. The guy created the Gatling gun because he thought that it would make war so unpalatable, it would make slaughter so accessible to every army that the world would just stop fighting. In reality, everyone was like, "Yo, can we get 10 of those?" But when we scaled it up to
does the same thing.
When we scaled it up to fission bombs and then thermonuclear weapons delivered by hypersonic missiles in orbit 10 at a time,
didn't change a thing.
Well, no. It did. In that not since 1945 has there been total war. Total war has stopped. There's still warfare, but you never had a nation's full industrial might going at another nation's full industrial might. Even Vietnam, Korea, Grenada, Desert Storm, Iraq.
Grenada was kind of a sad joke.
Yeah, but still. But the point is, even in the Middle East.
Hold that thought. Should we ever pick a war with Iran?
Sure. But the point is what I'm saying though is like has it or has it not worked? I would say it has, and that's probably the hardest pill to swallow is that nuclear weapons have actually created peace.
But it's also the policies around them, and a lot of that revolve around the Nash equilibrium, and that's the whole doctrine of mutually assured destruction. That if you get a chance to see the movie A Beautiful Mind, it is very worthwhile. Okay. Because it is about a person who is very insane, and it is from his internal view.
Okay.
And it has, I don't want to say too much about it because the thing is the movie is really told from Nash's perspective, and he's insane.
Kind of like American Psycho.
Yeah, except that Nash isn't, as simple.
Okay.
Nash is a very complicated person, and he actually is a brilliant man who contributed some incredibly important things to particularly our theories of nuclear defense and stuff like that. And it just happens that he's also majorly schizophrenic. But the whole thing, he there's a scene in the movie where the three, he's one of the three college buddies that are, they're at the bar, and there's three girls, and two are brunettes, and one's the obviously much more desirable blonde, right? And so at first they're all like, well, the blonde is mine. I'm going for her. And Nash just clicks. He's been studying these competitive strategies for years at this point, trying to figure out the fundamentals of how they work. And all at once he just says, no. We all go for the brunettes. We ignore the blonde. And they're like, what? And he's like, that's the only way we all get laid. And then he leaves because he has a paper to write. He has figured it out.
Figured out mutual assured destruction.
Yeah, that if everybody goes for the primary target, nobody wins.
Mm-hmm.
But if everybody is willing to settle, then you can end up in a place where everybody has something nice.
Okay.
And I'm not putting it very well, but I think I probably got it close enough.
I have to pee again, but I want to come back and I want to give you my argument that me and my friend David had several years ago about why by the year 2050 every man, woman, and child on the planet should have access to their own thermonuclear weapon. And I'll come back in a minute.
Oh, that's got that down. That sounds interesting. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing. I'll be right back.
Okay, so
we
were... What?
I beat you.
Did you leave?
Yeah, I had to take a pee break too.
Never in my life did I think that... I remember I was talking to Dale Comstock the other week when we were talking about methods Dale uses to succeed. Dale's the youngest ever member in Delta Force. Dale worked for the CIA, cleared the NSA, did nuclear facilities, trained a professional boxer, trains dogs, and he does all sorts of meditation and visualization. And he has a master's, he has a PhD. You look at him and he talks about all these methods he used to succeed. And I told him this when I read his book last March. I was like, very early on, you're like, no matter how his techniques may sound to you, this is not a guy that ever fails at anything. So you have to take it into consideration. And I told him, I was like, if Tom Brady, who's going to his 10th Super Bowl, told me that the only way to succeed is to put tapioca pudding on his balls, then, who am I to say that's
Where's
wrong?
the tapioca?
And then I said to Dale, never in my life did I think I'd be sitting here with an ex-Delta Force member talking about the application of tapioca pudding to my grundle. Never in my life did I think I'd be sitting here with Roger, the author of my favorite book, going, beat you back. I peed first. But, yes! So, but...
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Thermonuclear
Welcome
weapons.
to 2021.
Yeah. Welcome to 2021. Yeah, it's like that meme that was like that moment you realize that every year this decade just begins with 2020 when you say it out loud. 2022, 2023. It's a 10-part series, and you go, "Oh no!"
So there was 2020, which was like the subject of the incredible Match.com ads. Then There's 2020 space WON.
Yeah, and then there's 2.
Then there's
TOO.
2020 space TOO. We're screwed. We're screwed.
2020. Yeah, we're back. And it's like
it's 2020 for at least the next 3 years. Okay.
Right? It's like yeah. Oh. So me and my friend David, and I remember we were arguing, and I've known David since 5th grade, and again he and I polar opposite views politically, in terms of everything, and that's why I love him. It's because he's a super intelligent guy, and I can't look at someone as intelligent and respectful as him with a good wife, and I can't look at him and go, that guy's evil. So when I see him with like opposite beliefs of me, it helps me because I go, okay, well, there's someone that clearly they're not a bad person, so maybe we do just agree to disagree, and that's why I try to be like aware of my own biases and shit. That being said, we always kind of rustle each other's feathers. And I remember a couple of years ago we were talking about like gun control, and he was like, I was making an argument like I don't think the government should have anything that we don't have, and he was like, including tanks, and I was like, including nuclear weapons, and I just kind of said it just to get under his skin. and he was like, why? And like I wasn't planning on this argument, but just being an idiot and like a douchebag, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna try to take this argument. I'm just gonna try to like defend this court case. And I go, I think every man, woman, and child should have a thermonuclear weapon, the biggest ever made, 100 megatons. I think we should all have one by the year 2050. So I said this to him in like 2016. And he's like, that's terrible. And I was like, no, it's not. And I was like, because we have 30, now we're down to 29. I was like, but we have 34 years until it happens, and it's publicized. This isn't a secret. Everyone knows it's coming. There's like there's a countdown ticker on every screen on the world. We all know that
no one gets theirs first.
No one gets theirs first. We all get it. It's a perfect system. It's like a simulation. Like we all get it at the exact same time. No one gets an advantage. There's no shortwave radio. There's no fucking high frequency trading. Everyone gets theirs at the exact same time.
No, okay. The magic thermonuclear bomb fairy
all at the same
drops
time.
them on us all at the same time.
Okay. I think that would be the best possible thing ever. And my argument is this. But what's the first thing that's, well, shit, some crazy guy is just going to fucking click the trigger. Well, we have 34 years. Looks like we should probably get cracking on mental health. Okay. They're going to be, and here's the thing is, okay, what about...
So what you're saying is that we know this is going to happen now, but we have time to...
We have 34
prepare.
years to maybe protect mental health. What happens if someone who is just, if there's someone that's just actually... Oh, and here was one of the stipulations. No one can take a bomb from anyone else. You have to give it up voluntarily. That was the one criteria. Mm-hmm. You can give it up voluntarily, and that was it. Everyone gets it at everyone gets it at the same time, and you have to. You can only give it up voluntarily. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we should probably get cracking.
You've just described the internet.
Yeah. So everyone gets it. Everyone gets it. We should probably get cracking on mental health. We have 34 years. Okay. Well, what if we start to realize that maybe not everything is mental health? Maybe some people are just actually unstable.
Assholes.
No, not just assholes. No, not even that. What happens if people are we're just taking it from the very bottom rung first? What about crazy people? Okay, let's get on mental health, affordable mental health. Well, what if it's not just enough that it's affordable? Well, maybe we should get cracking on better. We should put more money into pharmaceuticals. Well, what if there's not a profit incentive? Well, we should argue, is there a profit incentive, or is there a thermonuclear Armageddon on the horizon? Everyone is going, okay, we're all in this. We should probably put more money into better and better SSRIs, SNRIs, anxiolytics, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, all that stuff. Okay, so let's get the bottom two rungs out. What about people that are just paranoid schizophrenics? What about those unfortunate souls who are born into a brain that just it has a fractured reality, and we cannot take their weapon from them? Well, it looks like that we should probably have to build up support systems enough to where this person can be talked to to where they would give it up voluntarily. That would take so much money per person. Well, it's that or thermonuclear war. So it looks like we're going to have to divert some funding to finding these big centers where you can go with your family and you talk to this person, and it's like, so this is what it is, and this is how you were born. Instead of just throwing them in a straitjacket, we're going to have to go, hey, and this is what it, and maybe it takes a lot. Maybe we got to use different medications and shit. Okay, what about assholes? Well, why is that guy an asshole? Well, he can't get a good job. Did he not get a good job because did he do poorly in school? Did he not study? No, he worked hard. He just couldn't get it. Well, maybe it's a black guy. Well, shit. Well, maybe we should tackle that. Maybe there are some like race laws that they can't, equal opportunity. Okay, what if that guy is an asshole? Well, why is he an asshole? Well, his kids were killed. How were his kids killed? In a drunk driving accident. So then you have to go into that. Well, why is that guy drinking? What's he trying to escape from? And it's all these things that sound idyllic normally, you're right, and they're proposed, and we say, fuck that, that's not reality. Well, my argument is well, what if there's global thermonuclear holocaust on the horizon? So it comes down to, well, what about this guy? What about all those people in the Middle East? Why are they angry? Maybe we're pillaging their resources. Well, why are we pillaging their resources? Maybe we should put more money into fusion reactors. Maybe we should do all of this. Well, what if they're still not happy with us because we've been bombing their country for decades? Well, it looks like we should go on a pretty big peace tour, I think, is what we should do. Well, we're going to have to divert money from our defense industry. Well, if you take money away from our defense industry, we won't have a defense net. That won't matter.
Everyone has a thermonuclear bomb.
Yeah, that won't matter in 34 years because there's a global thermonuclear holocaust on the horizon. It's just those 9 syllables, global thermonuclear holocaust. And it goes on and on into every aspect of life. And then you go, ooh, well, what about leaving the planet? Can you just leave the planet? Goddamn right you can. Well, then fucking A, it looks like there's going to be some private capitalization of going to other planets. Well, what about those planets? What if 10 people go and they each have nukes? Well, fuck, you better screen your people and make sure that you're all on the same Well, what if you're on a planet and some other group on the planet nukes it? Well, then maybe you should go to a different planet. Maybe you should go to one of the moons of Jupiter. Well, how are you going to do that? I don't know, but you got 34 years. You might want to get cracking. Or you can stay here and work on mental health and mental wealth and jobs for everyone, and maybe you stop raping the planet. How do you appease the Greenpeace people? Well, it looks like we're going to have to put some money into this. And every time it circles around to, well, the vast majority of the world's resources, not to mention America's, go to the military-industrial complex, at a certain point you'd have to realize that doesn't matter when we have a global thermonuclear holocaust on the horizon. So maybe we should all go to different planets. What about drilling deep down? What about deep bunkers? You can do that if that's where you want to put your money. You can make bunkers, sure. But it's all about it's all of a sudden we've taken all the carrots and we've just turned it into a big stick, but everybody's fucked together. So, and what if at the very end of this all, what if you still got someone who's just a troll? And on that day, on January 1st, 2050, they go, boop. Well, that's something you still have to consider. So you should probably...
As Alfred said very famously in one of the Batman movies, Master Wayne, some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, so... That being said, well, you have to take that into consideration, which means that it seems like the ultimate thing is, well, then this is how humanity... So you go through all these, it's like too complex about mental health, and what about making everybody happy? What if someone isn't an asshole because they were slighted or their wife left them? What if they're just an asshole? What if there's no other explanation than they're just an asshole? Well, then you should probably get as far away from that person as possible. Well, how do I do that? I don't know. You might want to start working with an aerospace industry to go to a different planet. So really what it comes down to is what this would do is it would drive humanity's spread into the stars. It's the only explanation. We would all be broken up into small groups where everyone kind of back in like ancient days where you kind of had to be a small village and not much more, where everyone took care of each other. No one quite knew whose kid was whose. And so these just kind of acted like these cohesive little groups. That just might be the move, is we all go to different planets as different groups. And what happens if we fail?
So we would be an aerospace feudal society.
In a sense, yes. And what is like the one thing we really need to do is we need to decentralize and get off this planet. So in conclusion, Kerrigan 2040, Kerrigan Williams 2040, our ticket, global thermonuclear holocaust coming to your doorstep. So let's go to the stars. That is what I will run on. And when everyone says that's insane, what I say is we are already pointing global thermonuclear weapons at each other at all times. It's not a whole lot different.
This is true.
It's very true. Well, how are we going to get away?
I will be your running mate on that ticket.
Thank you, Roger. How are we going to get away? Bunkers? Well, no. The rich already have their bunkers. They're not concerned about you. They already have their bunkers. Yeah. So, if anything, I think this just levels the playing field.
Very level. It's like almost like it's made of glass.
I was about to say almost like it's by the power of a star. It's been flattened. It will be so there will be so many nukes going off that we actually.
It'll be so level you can just drive a Sonic race car across it.
What I was going to say is there will be so many nukes going off, and it will make the playing field so goddamn level that the Earth might actually become the flat Earth. It might shear off such large chunks of the core that we might actually.
No, it'll be like that last scene in Doctor Strangelove that my dad didn't like because everyone dies.
Boom. Yeah.
But it had such inspirational music.
It did. But the thing is so what did the guy say earlier? What did Doctor Strangelove what did the ambassador from the Soviet Union say in it? Well, what is your doomsday weapon? And he was like, well, you take a 50 to 100 50 megaton hydrogen bombs salted with cobalt thorium G. Mm-hmm. Well, what was he explaining? A ton of fucking nukes that ruins the whole world, salted with cobalt and thorium.
Yeah, to make sure that the fallout kills everyone.
And at the very least, maybe we get to 2050 and then just no one delivers on the nukes. And then what? Oh no, we've made the world better for nothing?
Oh, darn.
Right? It's like the arguments against climate change. They're like, what if we realize climate change is fake and it was all a ruse? And it's like, oh no, so you're saying we got independent of oil for nothing? Oh, rats. So we really got had, boys. We're independent from Saudi Arabia now? Oh, shit.
I'm in Louisiana, and our people are freaking the hell out over the whole Biden administration's lurch away from fossil fuels. It's like, that's going to ruin our economy. It's like having our entire state underwater isn't going to ruin our economy, because that's going to happen if we don't get away from fossil fuels and shit. I mean, it's
kind of weird. It's like my thermonuclear argument is really just kind of a veiled analogy for climate change. Like,
it's a veiled analogy for a lot of things. It's actually pretty good.
But that's my running ticket.
Hey, so what's going on? Thermonuclear.
Well, Tommy, what do you think about taxes and healthcare? Oh, no. I'm not.
None of that matters when everyone has a thermonuclear bomb.
None of that matters.
Yes, we're going to take care of that. No one will care.
I am the truest. I am the most Republican and Democrat candidate there will be. Because on one hand, I'm saying an arms industry, unlike any other, billions and billions of thermonuclear weapons. Right at the height of the Cold War, there's 70,000. And on the other hand, I'm saying we're going to be putting a lot of money into mental health care and into maternity leave, because everyone's got to be happy. And when they say, how will you do that? You don't have a comprehensive plan. I'll jump right back to the Republican side and I'll say it's called the invisible hand of the market. But instead of the market, I'll call it the invisible hand of the Holocaust, because it will be the incoming global thermonuclear Holocaust. So I will break the system.
Funny how people are motivated.
I will be the quantum superposition of presidential candidates. I will be in two places at once. I will be the Democratic Republican and the Republican Democrat. No one will know what to do, because I will, at one hand, champion the free market hand of global thermonuclear holocaust, and on the other hand, dismantle the military-industrial complex, provide health care for all, and on the other hand, on a third hand, because there's going to be so much radioactivity in this world, is that there's going to be humanity spread amongst the stars. So no. I am simultaneously tackling every goddamn problem in the world, and now my running mate's dying.
I'm sorry, just swallowed the wrong way.
God damn it.
Damn. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. Okay.
So, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
more or less.
So that is my running ticket. Well, I'm just going to chop off these last 10 minutes, and that's going to be the ad I play during the campaign.
Yeah. Oh, my dad noticed too that you didn't edit out the part of the last podcast.
I know. When I said to fix your mic, I realized that a day later. I like woke up and my head popped off my pillow. I was like, I forgot to edit that out.
Yeah.
But at that point, the things had been
it's
set in
done
motion.
now. Yeah.
Things had been set in motion that I could. By the time that podcast is edited and uploaded, things have been set in motion. It's like glacial pace. It's like we can't turn around now. There's no going back to the house. Like we're going to the
That's
vacation.
what I figured.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that's what I told him. It's like, yeah, all right.
Hey,
Of course, he'll be watching this too, so it's like,
you know, Roger.
Hey, Dad.
Hi, Roger's dad. Vote Kerrigan Williams. You know what? And then people may ask, well, how can we possibly tackle all these problems? Well, you need some sort of hyper-intelligent, godlike AI. And I'd be like, actually, my running mate Roger actually put a theory forward a couple decades ago called the Mopi Initiative.
Yes. Oh, and you might not want to go too far down that road until you hear Revelation passage, because there will be some stuff in there about hyper-intelligent AI.
Well, regardless, I have already made my position, so I'm going to stand on it until I'm riding this wave until the end of time. You know?
So anyway, we got Revelation Passage is a set of 5 episodes that I had intended would be...
Oh, shit. Were we supposed to start today?
Yeah.
All right. I'm still down. How long is the reading?
Well, each of them is about 5,000 words, so they're not as long as the passages stories if you take them one at a time.
Okay.
And we can always say this is one of those things where you riff off one another. I'll tell you what we got on deck, and you can decide what you want to do, because this is your joint. So Revelation Passage is a set of 5 stories. Each of them about 5,000 words. So they total about 25,000 words. For reference, the last 4 that I read for you were each around 10,000 words.
Okay.
And
might have to postpone this reading until next week. Is that all right?
Okay. Hey, yeah, whatever you want. Like I said, it's your joint.
No, I definitely would have been down to do it. I have 3 podcasts tomorrow, which I've only done once before, and I just have to be ready for that. And
so all right. So let me just give you the sales.
Okay.
Pitch. All right. We won't read it.
Okay.
We'll just let you know.
Okay.
So originally, I wrote, unlike the others, I wrote them one at a time, at intervals. You know, as I got the inspiration, I wrote Revelation Passage all at once, but I wrote it as 5 episodes that would be released, you know, one or two a week.
Mm-hmm.
And they start at the end of the first passages in the Void thing, where Bringer Tom, we didn't know he was Tom at that point, but wakes up as a human in a human body with an alien robot at the foot of his... Well, Revelation Passage is about those robots and what happens next after that.
Fuck yeah.
So, but it's in the form of 5 segments. They're each about 5,000 words. So each of them is about half as long as the passages stories that I've read you in the past. But they were intended to be released separately. You know, each of them has a little cliffhanger leading to the next. And within those segments, though, there are parts 1 through 7, and for reasons that become clear only in the late going, it starts with part 2.
Okay. Okay. Roger, you're never going to get good constructive feedback from me because I love your work. So anything you put out, I'm like a retarded seal clapping my fins together. But I'm definitely...
But if we don't have time for it, we don't have time for it. That's fine. Yeah.
No, I definitely can't tonight. We've already been cruising for 2 hours. But
has it been? Oh shit!
Yeah, that's why I was saying, because if we were like 30 minutes in, I'd be like, yeah, sure, fuck it. Like, no, I'm not. It's just I gotta get to bed somewhat early tonight.
Yeah. Well, we got Gamestop.
Fuck you. We got game. We went to GameStop, and then we argued our presidential ticket, and so we got a little busy. We can only tackle so many things in one night. But how about we start? How about we do next Saturday at the same time, 5 p.m.
Okay.
And we can start reading.
That's worked well for me this week.
Let me write that down right now, just so.
And we start with the reading.
Yeah, we'll just start right off the gate with the reading. Or right out of the gate, right off the gate. The fuck does that mean? Right out of the gate. Yeah, we'll avoid, unless something cataclysmic happens with GameStop, in which case
might very well happen.
It's not an uncertainty, but
yeah. So,
well, regardless, if something happens
provisionally, we'll say,
if something crazy happens, like I'll probably text you to have you on that day if something happens. So let's still save next Saturday, or this 1 week from today. Let's save that for a reading. And if something insane happens between now and then, I'll hit you up and we'll do an impromptu analysis of what's going on.
All right. Yeah, we haven't ever done that before.
Yeah, so this could be fun. So
hey, yeah.
You know what? So this is the fuck you, I got mine. Where we're watching GameStop die. I'm like, I am the Rothschilds funding both sides of the war, right? I'm the military-industrial complex. You guys fight. Roger and I will make content. It's a win-win.
And the Wall Street bets guys will destroy the stock market while making themselves rich off of it.
Do you want to make predictions right now, real quick, in 3 minutes? Do you want to make predictions about what's coming in so today is Saturday, January 30th, 2021 at 7:17 p.m. Eastern Time. The market opens Monday. I'll say that in all of my knowledge, which is nothing, I'll say it will be a big nothing burger. It'll be a way that somehow the rich guys get out of it on some technicality because they own everything, and everyone will be angry, and the system won't actually work for the little guy. But there's a % chance that it does turn into some sort of stock revolution.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to move a lot in the next few days. I think that the market's self-protective mechanisms are going to keep it from moving too much either way for a little bit until they can't anymore. Right now, there's a lot of really paranoid attention being paid, particularly to GameStop, but even to all the other stocks that the Wall Street bets guys have also sort of alerted on. And so there's a lot of stuff that's probably going to happen next week. Okay. As far as how this whole dynamic works out. And I honestly have no idea, because it's the little guys this is a classic thing where David walked up and kicked Goliath in the nuts. But at the same time, in order to do that, David had to walk over the bodies of a lot of other little people to get to Goliath's nuts. And so they're not good guys either. And how the market reacts is going to be really interesting, because you've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ted Cruz both saying we need to look into this.
That's when something's up, when myself, a Trump supporter and a conservative, sees AOC and I go, she's making a lot of sense. Something's up.
Yeah. And then of course, we can't ignore the most beautiful oh my God, the response in the universe is as far as sick burns, well, normally I would be happy to work with any Republican on anything of interest to us. But since you tried to have me murdered, I'll pass this time.
We get what we fucking deserve. You know what? You know what I think would solve that, though?
Thermonuclear weapons.
A countdown date to thermonuclear weapons. That's why you're my running partner, because you can finish my sentences. Yes. That's why he's my running partner. And you know what? I don't think we'd be too concerned with insurrection or elections or GameStop if we all knew that there was a bigger fish on the horizon that needed to be fried.
Would be fried.
Or
yes.
would be fried.
Would be fried.
Will we be the fryer or the fryee?
Well, both.
Both, potentially.
You have a personal thermonuclear weapon. Who's at the middle of it?
Mm-hmm. So
that's kind of like what the people who teach magic, divination, the magic thing is they say. It's like if you set up a negative thought form.
Mm-hmm.
If you set up something metaphysical that you want to attack someone, as soon as you create something negative, who's closest to it?
Yeah, I like that. Right.
So it's a warning that it's like, yes, you can do these things if you want, and there are protective mechanisms that they then teach. But the warning is that always, if you create a negative energy, then you are the center of that negative energy. It is in you first.
Yeah.
And so the first thing, the first thing you got to do before you create that negative energy is do something to make sure it doesn't destroy you.
Yeah, that's it's kind of like the Buddhist quote, like if you hold on to anger intending to hurt someone else, it's like holding on to a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone. Whether or not you hit them and burn them, like you're burned first.
Yes. That is actually exactly the same thing. And in fact, it probably comes from the same source. Yeah, the idea that yes, you create a destructive thing, and you're the thing closest to it when you create it.
I still stand by my argument. I don't think anything would usher in a harmonious, equal, fair society and or interplanetary and then interstellar travel faster than a global thermonuclear holocaust on the horizon. Nothing else matters.
I would feel better about it if so many of my fellow citizens weren't obviously insane. That's not a bug. That's a feature of this idea. It's like, so the whole thing's fucked. We should probably start dumping money in SpaceX or Blue Origin. We should probably get the fuck out of here. That's very much not an accident. That's part of it. Is insanity. Oh, do you hear that?
I do. Let's use that. That's our parent. Let's use that as our cue, Roger. Let's wrap this bitch up. 5 p.m. Eastern time next week.
All right.
Fuck yeah, we'll start reading. And if something happens between now and then, I'll hit you up. Roger Williams, author of my favorite book, Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. Read it, you ungrateful bastards. It should be on Audible at some point. Again, who knows how much money it may
We're working on it.
You know what? All I'm saying is we got 29 years before global thermonuclear holocaust. Maybe just get it out.
So I had 28 years to get it on Audible, right?
Fuck you, Roger. Fuck you. All right. Let's wrap this bitch up. Roger, I'll see you next week, my friend. Thank you. Bye-bye.